In local news today, Nashville residents have seen the PACE infection come to their area. It's advised to avoid anyone that appears unmoving or unresponsive. National Guard was already activated prior to the events transpiring, and local sheriff has requested help from local militia units, ex-military, and police for assistance in dealing with the threat. These units will be performing wellness checks and community sweeps, and the department is asking for cooperation. He advises that no one in these units are allowed to search private homes at this time. Do not allow unauthorized intrusion. He asks that if anyone sees someone they believe is sick, to call the emergency hotline immediately. That's the news for the evening.
Are you tired of feeling down? Are times tough and you just need a pick-me-up? Having trouble finding motivation for even the most joyful events? Flupo is a new drug by Katala Pharmaceutical that can help. It works by stimulating you, softening the hardship, and helping you find that old you know and love. May cause suicidal thoughts. Call your doctor if you feel nauseous or lethargic, as this could be signs of a more serious illness. Get yourself back in the game with Flupo.
We're back. This is Rody Cole. The East Coast is currently in the throes of an infection being called PACE by experts. It's noted by victims becoming statuesque, standing entirely still and in place for long periods of time, but attacking anyone that comes near them. For some, they may roam areas like an animal hunting in a feeding ground, but as National Guard and local law enforcement begin dealing with the problem and we're being told gaining ground, the regular citizen is looking for instructions on how to deal with this. Instructions that never seem to come, other than just avoiding infected individuals. And that just wasn't enough for us. We have expert Todd Graves here to discuss what people should do. Thanks for coming on, Mr. Graves.
My pleasure.
I think I need to ask people, should we be worried about this? Should they have some concerns, or should they just be... People are very traumatized by this right now.
Well, that's a multifaceted question. Obviously, everyone needs to worry about it. It's a dangerous infection, but once you see it for what it is, most shouldn't worry about this.
You seem extremely passive about this in, I think, ways people would find shocking.
Well, it's like anything. Handling a snake or playing with fire may seem dangerous at first, but as an expert, you learn how to deal with it, what it can do, how it affects you.
That's fair. Can you explain to our listeners why they shouldn't worry?
The truth is, it's very difficult to acquire this infection. These infected are just that, infected, so you don't want to touch them or get any of their fluids on you or in an open wound. That's really why we're hearing the position of complete avoidance, but it seems for now that only people truly susceptible to it are the old and infirm, people who are obese or have pre-existing condition like diabetes or heart disease that weaken the immune system. The majority of people who contract this, though, will be through being bitten by someone who has it. We've discovered that those bitten have a 100% contraction rate, and unfortunately this illness, once it's set in, is incurable.
So once you have this, there's no turning back?
Unfortunately, no. And what's truly unfortunate is that if you are infected, you become a true danger to anyone and everyone around you. You also become somewhat unstoppable. We've seen them shot, cut, missing limbs, and they simply don't feel it.
So what should people do?
I hate to relay this, but the best method of disposal is burning the body.
How would you do that when the person is basically unstoppable?
Well, during the gestation period, the infected individual goes into kind of a catatonic state. It resembles death. Most reported no readable heartbeat, no vital signs, and during this time they're not a danger and you can take action. But this time doesn't last forever, so you will need to act fast.
How long do they have to act?
Well, the time varies. We've heard of some in minutes, while others can be up to 12 hours. We don't really know the timeline yet, so it's something that we're looking into and hope to get better figures in the future.
So let's say you miss this period, you don't have a way to do anything within that time, and they suddenly attack you, and you said now it's impossible to stop them. What should people do to do this once they've already been severely infected, I guess you could say?
Again, avoidance is the priority, but another option that I don't recommend for everyone is to cause massive injury to the head or neck. Anything that cuts off communication of the body from the spinal cord to the brain, or the brain itself, should do the trick.
So you're saying what we've heard is shoot them in the head, which is, it's a common statement we've heard from many that have said this to us on how to deal with someone.
If you're a good shot, why not? I would say don't overestimate your ability to hit a 2 foot by 1 foot target. If you're not trained in firing a weapon, even at say 200 feet, it can be very difficult, and especially when something like this would be happening under pressure. Some people have reported that they're shooting a loved one. It becomes very difficult, and I don't really think that's a thing I would be saying is available for everyone. And there's the danger of shooting the wrong person or secondary targets like someone else, and then exacerbating an already existing problem. That being said, there are probably a great deal of good shooters here in Tennessee, so maybe that is an option.
Oh, fair enough. What about other forms of infection? Originally, we had heard a possibility of airborne, tainted drugs, foodborne illnesses. We've heard a lot of ways you can contract this, but nothing seems to be kind of landing on anything.
Most of the food and water concerns were shut down in the first hours of the infection when it broke out. Much of the testing said that there's nothing in the food or water that is going to hurt anybody. It's clear that it isn't airborne, or everyone would be sick. So I don't know where that information came from. The CDC is following concerns that it may be started with an illicit drug of some kind, but that's not something I feel that most people need to worry about. Obviously, the best method there is simply to avoid any sort of drugs, especially the more exotic types, until at least this blows over. And I'm sure people are going to say that's easier said than done, but I guess I could respond, unless you want to become basically a walking corpse, your options are very few in that.
You know, that is a great point you brought up. Many people, especially more apocryphal or conspiracy minded, are calling these things the undead. Just literally. Is there any truth to this claim?
Well, it could be pretty easy to see it that way, couldn't it? But I can assure you that dead people don't walk around. The concept is frightening of itself, but these people are suffering from something that damages the brain in ways, to be honest, we'd rather not discuss. It is an awful illness, and it appears so. And it's why people, I think, assign this kind of thinking to it, because it's easier to say that, to be able to take action against them. And in that respect, I think if you want to do that, then if it makes it life easier for you to take the action that you need to, then by all means go ahead. But it's important to understand that once this illness takes hold, whether you believe it's whatever, you have to understand these are no longer your relatives. They're not your family anymore. They've changed.
And on that somber note, we're going to head over to a commercial. We'll be back more to discuss with Mr. Graves about what the future holds. We'll be right back.
With current events, people are afraid for their family. Here at Anderson Shelter Systems, we want your family to be safe. Unlike a simple tent that provides little protection from the elements or invasion, Anderson Shelter Systems have you covered. They keep you warm in the cold and cool in the heat, and folds up for easy storage. Upgraded track systems are even available. Pick up your Anderson Mobile Shelter today. Don't be left out in the cold. Your family deserves it.
I'm back. You're with Rody Cole here. Unfortunately, Mr. Graves has been taken away. The problem right now is obviously that we are beginning to be seeing the impact of the PACE virus in our area. And it's something that is going to be needing to be addressed, and a lot of people are going to be involved right now. And one of the things that they're doing is really preventative. So while other areas were kind of caught unaware once this infection started, our local area was well aware of what was happening on the more extreme east side of the coast, and the expectation would be that it would spread to our area. So the local police, National Guard was already called. Everybody was basically in the area to start taking action to get ahead of this. The sheriff's station had already started to, as I understand it, deputize people to get them ready for the incoming problems that are starting to occur now. But again, this is something that's very active. It's dynamic, and it's something that it is difficult to get ahead of. And it's very hard to, like, we have a lot of answers about things that we're discussing, and this is one of those things that really, it's diversified in the way it deals with things. So the way we deal with them is much different here than, say, the way a city would deal with things, the way a town or county would deal with it, and especially those living in very rural areas, which we have a lot of here in Tennessee. So the big thing here is to be able to say that we can address those different areas, and obviously, we're going to be focused on this area as we live and breathe within it. But again, we do reach out to these other areas, and I think it's important to let these rural areas that are getting the transmission, that they understand exactly how to take action and do things when things begin to happen, and what to identify people as. One thing that when I talked to a little bit on the break before Mr. Graves had to leave, was seeing certain signs and understanding, what you have to deal with. The first inclination that one might have is that when you see somebody like this, and you're pretty sure that you're dealing with a PACE infected person, that the first thing is your adrenaline's going to start to rush, your heartbeat's going to start beating, you're going to start having these, you start reactions, and that kind of anxiety is natural. It's okay. The thing is to be in control, to be able to look at these as events that one can deal with, and to train yourself to react accordingly. The big thing that's important here, and first and foremost, is that PACE-infected individuals do not have very good vision. We don't think that they have very good smell or very good hearing. And the reason is because of the harm that's being done to the brain does not allow those communications to happen. And this is something I confirmed with Mr. Graves while we were, again, talking. So the first thing is that you have to understand that the person who's infected by this is probably not going to have very good vision. They're only going to be able to see silhouettes, and almost like, I would say, heat. They could feel heat, they can feel other things, but this is something they're not going to see you from 300, 400 yards away. Are they going to be able to identify somebody and begin to do something? What they would detect is movement, and what they would detect is sound. We don't think that they hear sound in the way that we hear it, so we can break things down in very distinctive ways. The idea of communication in of itself, language, is something that's very in-depth. So if somebody came up to you and said, hey, I'm going to go with you this afternoon, you would hear that. For a person that's infected, it's probably just base rudimentary noise, and this is something that can be covered up. You don't realize how much background noise is happening around you. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that can be very disruptive, and those can affect someone who is under this infection. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about these things. Movement, hearing. There's going to be positions where you're going to say, hey, I don't think I can move because I'm out in the open, but I also don't want to draw attention for other areas. Now, again, you don't want something coming up close on you, and you can take the necessary steps to get yourself out of those positions, and then reacquire what you're going to do. The other thing that we were talking about was the speed of movement that these individuals have. You don't have to run. You don't have to run and stumble and make all these, massive movements. The idea that these people are very ill, their motor skills are very broken, they're not working correctly, and they're not going to be able to basically run after you if you decide to say, hey, you know what, I'm in a position where I want to escape. How hard is it to escape? It's not. You could basically walk at a brisk walk and outrun anybody who has this infection. But usually what happens in the incidences that we've seen are people that are really caught unaware. They're in positions like you're sitting at an outdoor eatery and somebody comes up to you, and you don't really think about that because you see a lot of traffic that's going by. You see a lot of people, and we don't realize how much stuff we zone out when we're talking to our family and friends, that we don't pay attention to things. And an individual basically walking up in a slow gait would not be seen as a threat. We as humans see people running at us as a threat. We see attackers. An attacker who is just pacing his way up to you, no pun intended, is somebody that your brain just does not zone out. It's not seen as important, and you don't even realize that person has, if you will, acquired you and is going to attack you. And that's where we see the biggest problems occur. The second is that these people are actually engaging, and I know that seems really weird, but if you didn't know that this existed, then it would be very difficult for you to say, hey, I don't want to engage somebody. And not to say that happens all the time, because there's certain times when people literally overlook people who are hurt and ill or sick or whatever. But there are people who actually have a heart and will engage in people and see somebody that's sick, hurt, injured, walking around. And the first inclination they have is to go up to the person and say, hey, is everything okay? And usually we're very physical people that will grab a shoulder, or let's say you see somebody that's stumbling, you're going to try to keep them from falling. And those things are the things that are actually working against us. So as that person begins to fall, you go out, you grab them, not realizing that this is an infected individual that's just having motor skill problems, at which point that person, that infected person, is going to take action to harm you. So there's where I kind of say that there's certain things in our system of the way we think in general, the way we're accustomed to thinking, that need to change. And that's because we're in the situation that we're in. And some people, I think, are going to find that change difficult, while others are going to say, you know what, I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get ill. And remember, this is something that we were talking about earlier, because it was something that I figured out today that very interesting, that these people, it's not a curable incident. There's not something where, if you get it, you're going to be able to go to the store and take some an antibiotic or some kind, and you're going to walk away without any problem. This is not a penicillin-based thing. There has been tests done on that already. There have been different things that people have done, and they're saying that once you've gone, what is explained by Mr. Graves as a catatonic state, once you've gone into that state, there is nothing that can be done to repair that. Now, I wish I understood the entire system. I wish I understood how it reacted. But from what I've heard, this is a very aggressive illness. Again, I think the most he said was, he was talking about minutes to at most 12 hours. I've heard some people say 24 hours from first interaction with someone who was sick to the point that they're, now things are really, really bad. And those are different things. The truth is I think it's not just the numbers or the idea that we say this is how it happens. I think the idea that how people get infected effectively is very varied. For instance, you come into contact with somebody, let's say you have an open wound, you get the infection in your body. That is going to take longer than, say, someone who is directly attacked by somebody and bitten, and now there's a gaping wound that's caused injury, or again, somebody who has a pre-existing condition can put them in a position where, this is it. So that's going to be a time thing. So, but the biggest thing is, again, this is not something that you have to run away from. This is not something where, your fight or flight has to come into play here. But people are going to have those incidences where those things happen, and you're going to have to come together, and it's going to be fairly easy to get yourself out of a situation. Again, these are, at most, you're dealing with 1 or 2 people that may be infected. So I have barely heard of anybody that had any, like a large group of infected people coming at someone. But it's something that we need to figure out, because there's certain areas, especially in the rural areas out there, that is why we're saying this, that we have concerns that somebody who said, hey, I'm not going to take the necessary steps to protect myself, and that those are going to be problematic. So we are going to head right into a break again. What we're hearing right now is, again, this is something where we're getting a lot of advice from people that is saying that that shooting people is a bad thing, and it is a bad thing to shoot people in general, but to defend yourself in the case of a PACE-infected person, this is something that's going to become, it could potentially be a powder keg. So what we're going to do is I'm trying to get someone from the Sheriff's Department themselves to come on and say, how their stance is on what we're dealing with. So we're going to try to get them on the phone right now. Hopefully they'll be there when we get back. And if they are, great. If not, we'll continue with the broadcast. So we're going to head into a break right now. We will talk to you momentarily, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of feeling down? Are times tough and you just need a pick-me-up? Having trouble finding motivation for even the most joyful events? Flupo is a new drug by Katala Pharmaceutical that can help. It works by stimulating you, softening the hardship, and helping you find that old you know and love. May cause suicidal thoughts. Call your doctor if you feel nauseous or lethargic, as this could be signs of a more serious illness. Get yourself back in the game with Flupo.
Here's the news now. Concerns over stock prices are rising as PACE sweeps New York and other civil centers. The stock market ordered a freeze on the market earlier in the day to prevent a catastrophic fall in the Dow. Some have questioned the validity of investing in businesses that have lost almost their entire staff in an afternoon. This has also affected the real estate market, as some people choose to flee areas that are being reported as hotspots or potential quarantine zones. Experts advise that moving to secluded areas may not be the answer, and to give law enforcement and National Guard time to resolve the problem. That's been our News Now moment.
Okay, I'm back. This is Rody Cole, and I have a sheriff spokesman, Arnold McNeil, on the phone to discuss some things with us. First, Mr. McNeil, I wanted to ask, we're hearing a lot about finality here and the idea of defending oneself and the potential for an attack, and we'd like to hear your input on what people should know when it comes to attacking or even shooting someone with PACE, and what the ramifications of that will be.
Let me make this clear that we're never going to condone any sort of shooting another individual, and any such attack would be investigated fully with the law. But I can assure folks out there that if you have to defend yourself, that police will be on your side at this time. I need to add that we prefer that you simply avoid them and call law enforcement first, and leave attacking someone who is infected and dangerous to you, to the professionals. But you are in a situation that is a no-escape scenario. Our investigators are trained in what to look out for. This isn't a time for lawlessness either. If you would like to help, we have ways to get you involved, but don't go out engaging these threats on your own, or you'll end up hurt and potentially facing jail time.
Okay, thanks. You heard it here, folks. If you have to defend yourself, that's okay. They understand that. The investigators are already working on training right now to understand what situations are out there and what signs to look for. Again, this is not a time for people to take matters into their own hands and to start making movements. The thing that I think is important here is that people are not, you have to be trained to understand what you're dealing with. Just because you go out and see people, there are a lot of people out there who do suffer still from drug, mental, other illnesses that can affect or mimic the signs of what you're looking for. And if you're just walking through your life and you encounter some things, that's something that's different from basically going out and looking for something. That's why we've suggested to people over and over again that if you have the ability to stay home, that is the best way to combat this, is to fortify your house. Basically look for survival techniques. And that's something that a lot of people don't really or have never thought about before, is looking into these survival things that put things together. And one of the problems you're going to be running into right now is that if you haven't done anything beforehand, a lot of these grocery stores and locations, especially when we first reported that there were potentially sick in the area, these places have been flooded, and a lot of people have purchased up things that are in the area that are not available right now, and are trying to restock as fast as possible to get ahead of it. The beauty of our situation right now is that we do not have some of the other areas out there, especially the cities, have had full-blown problems that they're dealing with right now, with basically PACE people walking the streets, and it's been very evident. Here, we haven't had that kind of situation yet, and again, this is why sheriff and all these agencies are getting together right now and working with things like militias, working with ex-military, ex-police, different people that have volunteered, thankfully, their time to come together and begin to take action and kind of merge as a big unit. And it's been very interesting to watch, and it's been very successful in its ability to stave off any problems. The biggest thing that we have a concern with right now is in areas that are more rural, and I think we said that earlier in the broadcast, that there's areas out there that people do not have access to or readily access to, and these are places where things can fester and become a problem. And it's something and that's the way it was informed to me, so that's the way I'm relaying it to you. We really are concerned about people out there who do not have contact with other people, that say, for instance, you're sick and you have people that care for you, and now those people don't show up to take care of you or help you or whatever. Those things need to be addressed immediately. They're hoping to find ways to get ahead of that and figure out what those situations are before they have a bigger problem on their hands. And that's where what they were calling sweeps was so important, that they were coming through areas and taking action to basically make sure that these hidden areas are the best, and they're taken care of. One of the things that they had addressed earlier was basically homeless shelters and homeless areas, and basically I'm going to call them like houses of ill repute. So any place that activity went on that people were not aware of, these guys could go in and see and make sure that those areas were well taken care of. They did not seem to have as much of a concern about general population areas, but they also said that those areas are places that they don't want to overlook, that they do want to go into and basically have a no stone unturned mindset when it comes to how to treat these areas. And I think that's great. I think that the public should work with these groups to make sure that they get the necessary support that they need, as well as making sure that they're allowed to come in and document areas and houses that that are clear of any signs of infection. One thing that we did hear, I think it was from Civil Defense, that had prescribed a marking system for people to put on their houses to make sure that people knew what was going on in the area, or that especially National Guard and anybody working with those can mark houses to let them know that either they've been cleared, they're unknown, what kind of people are inside. I have to say this is a very dangerous job. It's something where we're in a situation with an illness that we're having issues with, that these guys are taking the action that they're taking, and they're going into areas that we do not know what's behind every door. And it's not like, you get a warning. So for instance, if you were raiding a house that was like a drug den or something like that, you'd have a general idea of what kind of stuff you're going to encounter inside. With this, you don't know. Every house is could be some sort of problem. And again, you could be living in a neighborhood right now where somebody's infected 4 or 5 houses down, and you would not have a clue of what situation they're going through. And that's kind of the thing that we're dealing with here. And I think it's important to make people aware that when these guys are taking the actions they're taking, to be aware of what they're going to encounter, or what you would encounter if you just even went out of the house. Because people may, and we have heard that people have left their houses, found out that there's problems in somebody else's residence, try to go to that residence to help, and been caught up in the incident themselves. So again, like I said, unlike those other areas like, again, New York, Pennsylvania's different areas in Pennsylvania are most affected. And then, of course, Georgia itself has seen a lot of this activity. We have not seen a great deal of activity in comparison. But I still think, and I've said this before, and it was something that we said in passing this morning before I started the broadcast, but it really makes me wonder why we have not called in the military of some kind to just say an army, Air Force, Marines, if you will, to say that these people should come in and back up these places. And not just, I don't know if that would work so much for our area, but for some of these bigger areas, to prevent this spread. I just think it requires some more firepower. Even though that they're saying that they're taking the steps that they need to, they're doing the same kind of sweeps that we're doing, that they're getting into these areas and making sure things are cleared out. It really makes you wonder if, with high population centers, is that something that can be done? But again, the biggest thing right now is less people out there that are affected by it who get in touch with this virus, or infection. It's not a virus. I think I made that mistake earlier too. The less people who get involved in this infection and get caught up in it, the better off everybody's going to be. And I think that's really the priority that we need to address here, is to make sure the safety, welfare, and just general well-being of the populace is kept and maintained in a way that's productive. So again, I'm gonna head into a break again real quick. We're still talking about, this is something that I hate to say this to everybody, but you get ready for the long haul here, because I have a feeling that this is not something that's just going to blow over. This is definitely going to be a day or two that we're going to be dealing with this, like I said, to clean out the areas. And what we hope is going to happen is everything's going to get cleaned up, this is going to be passed over, and everything's going to be great. So we'll be into this break. We'll be right back. We'll talk to you then.
Now more than ever, being prepared is the name of the game. Here at Theron Shooting Club, it's not just about firearms, it's about being prepared. We can teach you important survival skills as well as hand-to-hand combat, knot making and foraging. We even set up camping trips and have a workout room where you can get that cardio up to par. Stop sitting in front of the television waiting for one bad moment to ruin everything. Be prepared. Whether you're doing it just for the adventure or for real-life survival, do it, because it's the right thing to do. Theron Shooting Club. Do it for you.
With current events, people are afraid for their family. Here at Anderson Shelter Systems, we want your family to be safe. Unlike a simple tent that provides little protection from the elements or invasion, Anderson Shelter Systems have you covered. They keep you warm in the cold and cool in the heat, and folds up for easy storage. Upgraded track systems are even available. Pick up your Anderson mobile shelter today. Don't be left out in the cold. Your family deserves it.
This is Rody Cole back with you. This just came across my desk. A fire has broken out on Richland Ave. Apparently, a man walked from his house and attacked what was being described as an infected individual with a flamethrower. The resulting conflagration spread from the individual to surrounding houses, causing a fire that spread to multiple areas, and it has engulfed one house at least, and there are currently threats to spread to other houses in the neighborhood. The fire department has requested fire backup and police coverage in the case of further infection. This was an area that has not been searched yet. It was not swept as we see it. And see, this is what we're discussing earlier. This is why it's so important not to take matters into your own hands. This could be severe and affect so many people in the area. You don't want to be caught out in this without a place to stay. And we're going to see here that probably there are people that have that happen. And the truth is we've been told there is no serious issue with infection right now in our area. And I need to make this clear. Unlike other places, our hospitals are functioning. The police lines are open. Things are not that bad. And I know you're going to see basically military going from house to house, but this is simply precautionary. This is to keep ahead of the infection, to help people who do have issues going on, or to say that maybe your neighbor has been affected in a way that you're not aware of. And these little things, these little pockets can spread so easily. And it's something that we saw in these other areas that may have been the problem about how they were not able to stay ahead of it. And I'm worried that even the risk of infected is going to cause some sort of powder keg that it doesn't need to be. Just because this stuff exists or that stuff has been reported in your area does not mean that it's something that has spread throughout the area. And we're hearing now that the activist groups are complaining that going house to house is a civil violation of rights in some areas. And government officials have stated that searches of houses at this time are not allowed. They are not allowed to come into your house. They do not have any sort of paperwork. There's been no declaration of an emergency as yet. But this has not stopped political opponents that say this is a move to discredit the current mayor to affect him in a coming election. So we're actually seeing where it's being used as sort of a chess piece to move things around here, and where no problem effectively exists. So let me make it clear, folks, you don't need to cooperate with searches. You don't even have to open your door, but I would say that it's a good idea to do so. One thing that we're starting to hear now is that people please do not hide anyone that is infected with fear of some sort of reprisal, that people are going to get hurt, if you will. The infection is the infection, and don't deny that if your loved one has it, especially if they have been bitten by somebody who has been infected. These Guard members and police activities here to help you, and we know this is a difficult time, but we need to make some tough decisions, and if we don't submit to this, we'll be in such a bigger issue. We need to adopt these protective protocols to make sure that we stay in an area that is not affected by this. And we don't want to become those areas. We don't want to become New York or, say, Pittsburgh or even Atlanta. Atlanta has been completely locked off. And for some of us, some people have actually said that maybe Atlanta's reaction is not the right thing to do, though. The actions that they took could have been more severe. And for some areas, especially in Tennessee, we're hearing that nothing is happening, that most of this has been centralized specifically on specific areas in the East Coast. And obviously, I see it as bigger as some of the bigger cities are where this has spread the most. I think the only place we haven't heard yet is Boston. But for the most part, most of these eastern cities, and maybe that's from the cold. We haven't heard if cold affects them. The spread at all. So here's the thing, you really have to understand that our reactions are going to be paramount to how this moves forward. What's that? Okay, hold on, folks. We're getting an important message right now. And our producers are trying to confirm the information. Yeah, I've basically been told to stop the presses right now until we get this message verified. Okay, we've just clarified this message. There is a large number of individuals moving south from Coopertown. Police there have warned they believe these individuals are a group of infected. I think we need to do a little bit more. Yeah. The police have added that these people could count in the hundreds of individuals. Dear God. It appears they're following Route 431 headed south and have already attacked people, leaving injured and dead behind. Emergency vehicles have refused to go into the area and are requesting the guard to engage them. People have been asked to stay in their homes, but some have actually come out to witness the mass movement. Are these people crazy? Okay, we do have someone on the scene. All right, let's go to him.
Hello, I'm on scene now in what is being called by locals here a herd of what is clearly infected. You can see there's significant damage to many of these individuals. Many of them are covered in blood. Definitely walking at the appropriate speed. You can call out to them. They do not respond to you. We're trying to stay basically as far ahead of them as we can by still being able to see them off in the distance. But it's fairly easy to stay ahead of them as they're moving very slowly. But they seem to be following the roadway here. I think we're at Austin's Highway here, where we are headed south. And there are a group of people claiming that they're in a local militia. And they have driven ahead, and they're warning people of what the herd is coming. There's so many of them that they actually just cover the roadway. One individual counted, or informed us that he had counted 300 that they said converged somewhere up around Coopertown in the north. That it was just a few of them, but that as they went along, they began to collect more and more of these infected. And the truth is that number cannot be considered reliable in any way. There are people in front of the group that are just walking along with us as we drive. When we asked, they said they're trying to stay ahead of the group just because they found no way of getting around it, and they don't want to be stuck in it. They said the infected only stopped a couple of times to attack buildings or structures, and they then continue moving. They have been able to find people out and caught them beforehand. Now that there are people here that have been able to warn them, but the group itself seems to ebb and flow depending on what it runs into as it walks along. They said the self-described militiamen have, which they are armed, and originally took shots of opportunity at these individuals, but they had little to no effect. One individual was struck at least 5 times, only seeming to stumble once, and continue to march forward. Again, those are reports that we're getting from here. We arrived with these groups here that already trying to communicate to people around the area to keep things clear. They said that once that happened, that there was a lot less activity. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so 2 Humvees just drove past us now, and it looks like they're moving right up to the line of the infected. We gotta see what's here. Okay, there's a big gun on the back of one of the vehicles. They just started firing into the group. It seems to be having an effect. It's from best I can describe as destructive and gruesome. Some of the locals are cheering them, but nobody here is stopping to stop their walk. They're continuing on, and we're not stopping our vehicle either. I've never seen so much firepower unleashed on a group before, and it is not having the effect of what I would have expected, but it is having an effect of some kind. Okay, it looks like they just ran out of, I'm guessing they ran out of ammunition, but there's still a great deal of infected that are still on the roadway. They even seem to have quickened their pace. It makes me wonder if if they are purposely heading to Nashville, or if they're simply following the individuals here that are trying to keep ahead of them. The 1B is staying, while the other one, the one with the gun, just went back the other way and seems to be driving back south. We're expecting that there will be more National Guard headed back, as their last attack seemed to be very successful, but we need to get ahead ourselves and fill up our gas tank. So we're going to send it back to you as we head back to get this, and we're going to stick with this to see what happens.
That is insane. And it makes me very concerned. Are there more groups like this, or did this just somehow form together? And if it did, where did it come from? Where did these individuals come from? I think this is a much larger problem than we first surmised. Is it possible that they're infected we don't even know about? We're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to continue to report here. Okay. Word is National Guard troops just started to mobilize north and are moving towards, I guess we can call this a horde of infected. Some had called it a herd earlier, and I think maybe that was a good term as well. This is at the same time that we're being told that Civil Defense has set up shelters in the area to test those for possible infection. So if you are feeling sick, we hope that you'll respond to those Civil Defense areas. And just remember that infection is indeed rare. I think that these have simply been set up to help people's emotions or anxiety. I think because a lot of people have asked if they are, and the statement is if you are asking, there's a probably not, but at least now you do have a place to speak to a professional and ask about it. Okay, we're now hearing that multiple other vehicles just arrived on the scene where the herd of infected we discussed and have begun to engage them. The way we're being told right now is that they're using a large caliber ammunition to dispatch the infected, basically doing, instead of targeting one part, in other words, most people had said to shoot the people in the head, they're using something much larger to deal maximum damage or stopping power, as they worded it to us, to the infected. Something like a round that would guarantee that they're unable to move due to the amount of damage that it was doing to them. And that's something that we heard into the report that was said earlier, that it tended to, without being describing it incorrectly. In other words, I'm not just saying this to say as a descriptor, but it was actually accurate that they were being mowed down. And that the plan was that the secondary group would move in to dispatch any of the infected that remain, which would be probably more on the lines of small arms fire or any sort of damage that would, as was addressed earlier in the show, how to deal with them. So the word is these attacks are having a significant effect. Something that has been bugging me for a little bit here is what we haven't discussed here is the true toll of death, the loss of life that's coming from these events already today. And it's really something that cannot be ignored. Some of the biggest events that we've had, you think about the counts or monumental moments that have transpired in our country. This is going to dwarf all those numbers. Each person that is struck down today, we have to consider was a life mere a day ago. One that, even though many will say people aren't innocent, I have to say have done nothing to deserve what is being done to them now. And what remains is is going to be those of us that have to live with the burden of the actions that are being taken, not just here, but at least across the U.S. There are military personnel that are going to question what happened today and their actions, and the concern also that it could happen tomorrow. And I think with that, we are seeing, we must come to the reality that this is not the end of this. That probably the loss of life today, which would have been considered a massive moment in any other event in history, is simply the first days of what will be transpiring for some time to come. At first, I really believed that we could get ahead of this and that we could do the things that we needed to, and now I tend to wonder if what time it will take for us to deal with this. So I'm going to ask everybody, and you know what? No, I'm going to beg you. Please do not harbor anyone that is sick. I understand these are people you know, people that you probably once loved, cared for, were friends with, but you cannot let them live like this. If they happen to be infected, what is happening to them is no longer life. They are not the people that you once cared about, and we're seeing the results of what they can do unleashed together in groups. What we're doing today, I feel, is merciful, and I hope that those who are carrying out those actions so that others don't have to will be able to deal with that morality once the time comes and the smoke clears. Those that are infected cannot thrive, or the reality is they will devour us all. We just hope that we're going to be quick enough to stop this, and the results that'll come with it. Okay, I'm hearing now that the National Guard has dispatched the group and have now sent in secondary groups to go in and deal with the problem, or deal with whatever's left. Word was that they expended somewhere in the range of estimates of 1,000 rounds today to deal with potentially 300 people, or 300 infected, I should say. It really makes you wonder if the cost of such ammunition, or the availability of it, if we could keep up with this kind of approach, especially if it continues. And I do fear that it will continue. Today's show, we started off trying to teach you how to deal with things, what to look out for. I hope that we gave you something of a way to understand that. I did not expect our show today to end with this kind of carnage. But I do think that we learned an important lesson. And what we want to do is we want to continue to convey that information to you, to let you know and to understand what we're truly dealing with here is not just an informational thing, which we try to do on our news all the time, is to make it cold and ineffectual and literal, to be scientific about this and not emotional. But there are times when the reality hits and nothing we say will have an answer for it. It really is the point of saying this is where you hug a loved one and you tell them that you're there for them and do what you need to do to protect them. And I hope that we all make it through this okay. Until next time, we're going to end the show here. We're going to head over to the regular news that will continue to report on the PACE virus. Thank you for tuning in.
In local news today, Nashville residents have seen the Pace infection come to their area. It's advised to avoid anyone that appears unmoving or unresponsive. National Guard was already activated prior to the events transpiring, and local sheriff has requested help from local militia units, ex-military, and police for assistance in dealing with the threat. These units will be performing wellness checks and community sweeps, and the department is asking for cooperation. He advises that no one in these units are allowed to search private homes at this time. Do not allow unauthorized intrusion. He asks that if anyone sees someone they believe is sick, to call the emergency hotline immediately. That's the news for the evening.